First off, we have to say, hello, sir, and how are you, Jim?
I'm good. Good. Thanks for having me on. I'm good.
Of course.
Thanks for having you on.
You know what? Being this close.
Sorry, Jim, you can't come.
Being this close to JR and, being such a huge fan of his, to be able to do this and what we're going to be able to do tomorrow night here in New York City, I got goosebumps.
No doubt.
Goosebumps.
I mean, in all honesty, it's like, JR wants to come by for 20 minutes or for 2 hours. The door is always open. I don't kid about that, that's for sure. And as you mentioned, Dave, tomorrow night, it's certainly goosebump worthy for us being able to, be on the very stage that Mr. Ross is going to walk onto and give you stories and tales and answer questions. It's really an amazing thing. Let me give you the lowdown, especially folks here in the Northeast that don't already have a ticket to the Gramercy Theater. Here's the deal. Very important in terms of Ringside with Jim Ross tomorrow night, Gramercy Theater, 127 East 23rd Street right here in New York City. VIP tickets are almost sold out. The first batch of VIPs are gone. They totally gone, blew them out. And then Jim and Gramercy came together and opened up another batch of the VIP tickets. So if you want one, those you need to get ASAP. Those you got to jump all over right now. Still Live Nation, they could jump on that and get it there today? Ticketmaster, very good. All right, so that's that, and that starts at 6 p.m. So here's the deal in terms of logistics, very important to note as well. 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time is your VIP meet and greet. As JR says, this is not, we'll shuffle you on through. Hey, nice to meet you, goodbye. This is,
got some time.
You get a little bit of time with the legend himself. So it's a special situation. We've seen it done. We saw it in New Orleans at the House of Blues.
Yep.
This is not just like, hey, come on in and you're gone. You get a bit of time, and obviously you get to shake hands with a great man, somebody we all of course have idolized growing up and listening to on many a wrestling broadcast. That's at 6 p.m. Eastern at the Gramercy, your VIP meet and greet. Then, for general admission, also important to remember, you can still get tickets. And you don't have to worry so much about getting it online if you're not internet savvy. If you've been deliberating on where to go, and let's be honest, you can't go to NXT at this point because there's no tickets available. Just come to the box office. Just come to the Gramercy box office, buy your ticket there. Doors open at 8, show starts at 9. That's your rundown. 6 to 8, VIP meet and greet. General admission, doors at 8, show at 9.
That's it. You're very good.
I try.
And the tickets the GAs are $25, so you're not getting.
Oh, geez.
It's not a robbery.
That's tremendous.
And they have good cold beer.
Well, that's good.
And so it's good. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I played the Gramercy a couple of years ago, and we did 2 shows in one night, and it had good crowds. Obviously, and I full closure. Trying to say, easy for me to say. Our advance started off amazingly well, and was rolling to where we were going to have an advance sellout. And then NXT went on sale. And, and not a bad thing. I'm not bitching about it, but a bad thing about WWE, I would have booked the same thing. They're trying to have a huge weekend in New York, even though it's basically in Brooklyn.
Yep.
For a lot of lay people, and I don't want to anger folks that live in the boroughs, but for lay people like me that live in Oklahoma, Brooklyn's a part of New York City. And that may be, them may be fighting words in these here parts. I don't know. But nonetheless, they're trying to compensate for not being in L.A. And I think I still think L.A. will get SummerSlam back. It's an interesting. They have interesting opportunities there. But so they have overcompensated for Brooklyn with the NXT show and SummerSlam and Monday Night Raw. All the tickets for all 3 events, to the credit of WWE and their brand, especially in this market, are sold out. So they sold approximately north of 40,000 tickets for 3 nights in Brooklyn. So hopefully, if fans haven't made a decision and they'd like to let's go do something wrestling wise. I'm an open-minded guy. Yeah, Ring of Honor is going to have a show. at the baseball park there in Brooklyn, Coney Island, I think.
Yes, sir.
And there's a show down in Jersey that Rey Mysterio's involved in. I don't know much about that one. And then our show at the Gramercy. So if you make a choice, I hope they pick mine. But you're right. The tickets will be available, even if you get in the morning and say, I thought we'll go see JR. Don't worry about it. Just come to the box office and come on in.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of folks that are out there. And, I know for myself, I would have already have locked it in, whatever my decision was. But I know so many people that simply, I don't want to say procrastinate, but they want to wait to the very. They're like you, Dave. Yes. They just wait to the last minute to do anything.
Well, another thing is a lot of people don't have the disposable income to buy early.
Yes.
in the process.
Great point.
And they're going to wait and see if they got the bread, because they got to pay the light bill or buy the groceries or school clothes, whatever the hell it may be. And so I think what we're going to do, we're going to have a great show. The show itself is going to be really fun, but I think the crowd will be good, and I am very optimistic, a glass half full guy, that the walk up will be representative of what we want.
Yes. And I'm a Jersey guy, and growing up in Jersey, I always thought of New York like Escape from New York. I thought Snake Plissken's running up and down the street, so I was always afraid to come to New York City. So if you're somebody like me that lives in Jersey, Gramercy Theater is in a great area. Plenty of parking all over right near that area of the Gramercy Theater. So if that's a problem, if you're thinking about that there won't be a lot of parking or it's going to be tough getting there, very easy access from the George Washington Bridge, easy access from the Lincoln Tunnel, and plenty of parking around the Gramercy Theater.
And one thing that we didn't mention, which is very important, and there's going to be one lucky fan that walks out of the Gramercy Theater with 2 tickets to SummerSlam.
Right.
Now, what I don't know, Jim, is how you plan on giving this away.
I don't know that either. We're going to let Live Nation help us with that. It may be, I would just think a drawing, but we need to address that. I should address that sooner than later. But if there are any Live Nation people listening, be thinking about how we give those 2 tickets away, and take the ball and take responsibility and run with it. I don't want to be bothered by, well, what do you want to do on their ticket giveaway? Just find a fair way, like when people come in and give them a ticket, and then we'll have a drawing. How simple is that?
I mean, that's pretty simple. But know there's going to be somebody at the theater who's going to be like, JR, what do you want to do with these SummerSlam tickets?
Oh, of course I will. Yeah. I as long as it's fair and impartial, and somebody's going to get 2 really cool seats to SummerSlam. Was sold out in the first 5 minutes they were on sale or something. So these are good tickets, and that way you get a little bonus out of coming to our show. You get to go to SummerSlam.
Amazing.
See, I would have done it like the XFL, just taken the 2 tickets and thrown it in the middle of the theater and have people fight for it. But that's just me. That's probably not the smart way to go.
Dave, that's not at all the smart way to go. I mean, you got lawsuits on your hand. There's some decorum here that needs to be handled.
It's pro wrestling, for God's sakes. There's got to be decorum.
A little bit at least. Jeez, you want people sitting in their seats.
Come on.
One other thing to mention, and we've talked about this time and time again, is that on Sunday, our job does not stop. Obviously, we're going to be literally on cloud 9 after working with JR at the Gramercy Theater tomorrow night. Sunday at McMahon's, 39 5th Ave, literally a block and change away from Barclay Center. We're doing a pre-show, a post-show. We got a viewing party going on. So basically from 4 p.m. on, if you don't have tickets, you're hanging with us. If you do have tickets to SummerSlam, come to the pre, enjoy the show, come on back to the post. We're not going to hold you too long for the pre. We'll be done at 6. You could get there in time for the kickoff show, no problem. And obviously you have your 7 to 11 4-hour SummerSlam, and then come on back because we hit the air right at 11 o'clock Eastern Time p.m.
It's all of a nice event to invite you guys to his place.
Yes.
Yes.
A guy named Mike McMahon, not Vince McMahon, who's,
equally as nice.
He's very, very nice guy. Jim, the place is gorgeous, by the way. It's as nice a bar as you're going to see. Great food and us, Dave.
Yeah, and we don't ask a lot from the Busted Open Nation. We try to give you some stellar pro wrestling talk, but we're asking you for 2 things. We're asking you to go to Gramercy Theater on Saturday to see Ringside, An Evening with JR, and then to meet us at McMahon's on Sunday. Not a lot to ask for, and I can guarantee you both times will be great.
No doubt about it. So, Jim, really not a whole lot going on this weekend. You can just kind of – it's unbelievable, actually, because you mentioned it. I didn't even know, to be honest, about the Mysterio show. I had no idea about that. Saturday itself is out of control. Sunday, the way they've stacked this card, it's almost akin to I don't want to call it a WrestleMania card, but it's not too far away. And certainly with 10 matches, you got to fill out, a 4-hour card. There was talk when they made it a 4-hour show. Does it take anything away from WrestleMania? And that's what I said. I was like, no, of course not. It's SummerSlam. So. It's not WrestleMania.
Right.
But at the same time, any validity to that type of statement?
No, not at all. WrestleMania is the crown jewel. It's the Super Bowl. So is there any NFL game of the entire year more marketable, more anticipated than the Super Bowl? And we all know the answer to that. No, there's not. Opening day is cool, and opening night, first TV game, the regular season is always a neat deal. Usually a doubleheader on Monday Night Football, right? Yeah. So that's kind of neat, but nothing's going to – I kind of got a chuckle when they said the match too big for WrestleMania. That was a cool set. It was a little bit of an eyeball roller, but from a marketing standpoint and a P.T. Barnum line, that was good thinking. Somebody had their thinking cap on that, but they can't believe that. It's too big for WrestleMania. Because I think the Lesnar and Undertaker match will happen again at WrestleMania.
WrestleMania 32?
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so let's just dive in because JR opened the door, so why don't we knock it down? How do you work this match? This match is the most confusing match to us in a long time because you got to make the case that both of these guys should be protected. The Undertaker has not beaten Brock Lesnar. Paul Heyman's done an amazing job of articulating that. We didn't know if he would even mention it, but we're talking history. We're not even just talking WrestleMania 30. Then, of course, you have Brock beating the streak, and now you have The Undertaker resorting to desperate means. We've seen a couple of low blows now.
Yeah.
On the flip side, why would the Beast ever be beaten? He's the Beast. He should never be beaten. Plus, then you think of the logistics of it. He's got 2 years and change on his contract. You want to protect him. Is this match a clear-cut non-finish or some type of shenanigans here?
Very well could be. I hope not. I hope not. I hope that my wish for SummerSlam is for WWE to legitimately surprise me in a positive way with the inclusion of some people that I didn't anticipate seeing, or people that I kind of thought I'd see, but their roles changed. But most importantly, that the two main events involving Rollins and Cena and Taker and Brock have finishes, not disqualifications, not countouts, not lameness, because the rules are so lax anyway that it is neutered disqualification. You can't stop a match with too much blood. There's things you just can't do in this PG world. So the disqualification has been kind of watered down. And you can almost hear the air go out of the crowd when there's a disqualification on Raw, for example, or a count out. And so I hope that my wish is I don't care who wins or loses, to be honest with you, but I'd like to see them have two clean wins or losses. And I certainly would not beat Lesnar, and I certainly would make sure that Rollins left as a WWE World Champion. John Cena's a made man. He's the made man in WWE right now because he's still the guy, and he has been for a decade. So he doesn't need a title to be John Cena and be relevant. So, and if they're all up in arms about the record, Flair's record, or God Almighty, AJ Lee's record, and what's next, for God's sakes? Well, Jack Doan had the record for most SummerSlam main events, but it's going to be broken tonight by, referee X. Mike Chioda, ladies and gentlemen, has broken the record.
Charles Robinson.
Beat Scrappy McGowan's record from
and it's
1981.
Dick Worley was a legendary
my
figure,
God.
and now it's Chad. Whatever his name. I can't remember Chad's name right now. But Mike Chioda was my one I would say because he's been around the longest. He was actually hired by Monsoon to be on the ring crew back in the day. But anyway, I just hope that they're creative enough that they could come up with some really cool stuff. No reason to beat Rollins. That's to me is so counterproductive, especially when he's wrestling a made man. That if he gets screwed, if Triple H screws John Cena, and Rollins retains and even becomes the U.S. champion, there's a lot of things you can do with the U.S. title. The Authority could say to Rollins, "Well, what do you want to do with the U.S. title?" I'll give it to somebody, my friend blank, whoever that may be. Maybe another member of the Shield that turns heel on Sunday. Or they have a tournament. He's not going to defend both titles. And it waters him down to be both champions. So I just think Rollins is the guy to carry the title right now, and Cena doesn't need it. And it gives the Authority a chance, maybe Triple H and Cena to have an issue, which could be interesting. And that's a pretty good marquee match that could happen at WrestleMania. I do believe that this show is going to tell us a great deal about what we might expect at WrestleMania in April. I really do.
You mentioned John Cena, and you're right. I mean, eventually John Cena is going to break every record. He's going to break Flair's record, and it's going to be on WWE.com that he's the greatest world champion of all time. We all know that eventually that's going to happen, but there's no reason for that to happen now. And I totally agree with you. This is the perfect time to make Rollins and take him to that next step, and hopefully they pull the trigger on that on Sunday.
Yeah, it's the logical. You have to use logic at some point, and some guys that are those made men, like an Undertaker or like a John Cena, at some point you have to use their sizzle and that proverbial rub to help others. If you don't, then you're not doing a good job as a booker or a strategist or a creative guy or whatever. That's part of the process that will always be in place in this crazy business. And I hope that even though the business overall, I don't care if you're talking about Ring of Honor or Lucha Underground or Global Force or TNA, you see little things happening where they are moving away from the core fundamentals of pro wrestling. And that's a very dangerous trend, and it will, and at some point it was going to drive more people away than bring them to the product.
My concern with John Cena in any capacity losing that U.S. championship is just that. And I think the U.S. Open Challenge, to me, has been the most compelling piece of TV we see week in and week out.
I agree.
And at the same time, and amazing, too, that a couple of guys here that have talked for so long about this Cena guy with the same gimmick, with the same clothing, with the same essence and aura and very little change. Talking about John Cena is honestly having the best year of his career. I mean, to me, we think the best work of his career has been done since WrestleMania. Time in and time out, match in and match out, compelling stuff. Owen, Cesaro, you just fill in the blank. Even, a match versus Ambrose here, a match versus so-and-so there. He's been that good. You take the U.S. championship off of him, aren't you losing something significant for your daily or I should say weekly program?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so, Doug. I think that he's just Teflon. There's nothing going to stick anyway. He's that good. He has done an amazing job of rehabilitating the United States title.
Yep.
I think that Ryback, before he got the staph infection, was starting to take small baby steps toward doing the same thing. But you got to consider that John Cena was already over and was already a star when he got the U.S. title. Ryback was not over and was not a proven star when he became the Intercontinental Champion. Cena is going to make the U.S. title mean more. The Intercontinental title is going to make Ryback mean more. And at some point then, Ryback will exceed the Intercontinental title, hopefully. and then both titles. The people that hold the titles make the titles. It's not the titles make the guy, but the title did help Ryback get some love and some, people started thinking about him. So and you don't want any title that doesn't have credence. And somebody says, well, I think they should have a Diva tag title. Yeah, let's just add more titles. Let's add a TV title, a Western States Heritage title, a light heavyweight title, 8 or 10 titles. And then it becomes like boxing. None of them mean a damn thing. The WBO, the WBA, the World Boxing Council, whatever. Who cares? Nobody cares anymore. Most people can't even name you who the heavyweight boxing champion of the world is.
True.
So I think that your title should be all meaningful, and in the men's side, 4 is plenty. 3 is plenty, right? Quite frankly, 3 I mean.
Well, 3 singles and the tag.
And
so
tags,
you're right about
3
4.
singles, and that's what I'm thinking singles. As far as the women are concerned, I think 1 is plenty. I think 1 is great because it gets you. The women are going to start meaning more when they start having personal issues, and the personal issues will attract the audience attention more than these little mini factions that have been somehow put together with a brushstroke, and here they are. I really like what the WWE's done as far as making that gender more sellable, marketable, and they can thank Ronda Rousey for that.
It's a great point.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. They can thank the U.S. women's soccer team for that. They had another role in it. They got great ratings. But Ronda Rousey's she's leading the wagon with that women's stuff, and it's good. So, but they're the same as the guys. You can't just put them out there because they're an attraction and they got surgically enhanced breasts and they look good in their in their attire. They're not. It's not all about boobs and hair extensions. It's the fact that they can actually wrestle, and there's some good ones in that group. And what you're really going to find is that people are going to love them more when they have a personal issue involved, and you have a definitive babyface and a definitive heel, and you know exactly why they're pissed off. You know exactly why they're wrestling each other. So that day's coming without question. So, but I think that Cena can lose. It'd be interesting to see what they did with the U.S. title. The Authority would have, one would think maybe, the Authority would have the authority to name a new United States champion based on whatever criteria they wanted to create. And that would immediately give the champion heat. Remember when Triple H got awarded the WWE title back in the day?
Yeah.
And everybody thought he didn't win it. He's a low-down son of a gun. And, he was a heel. You weren't supposed to like that decision because he's a villain. And villains are not embraced. So there's a lot of storylines you could write out of this. I think this about SummerSlam in a nutshell. It's probably going to be one of the more it should be one of the most surprising, unpredictable shows that they have had because they're going to try to take this giant leap with this main match of Lesnar and Undertaker and create as many possible scenarios that would then would take us right to WrestleMania in April. That's how I look at it. And I don't think that's not planning too far out. It's just, some people have a short attention span and want immediate results. And but I think this Sunday is going to be very intriguing. Somebody that's been in the business for 40 years, I'm very interested in see how the show is booked. What's the first match in the pay-per-view? Match times. I will tell you this: they're going to have a 4-hour pay-per-view. I bet you my Oklahoma season tickets that there will be talents bitching and moaning that they didn't have enough time, and there will be some fans will say, "Well, if that match could have been better if it wasn't so rushed." 4 hours doesn't mean your timing issues are over. The WWE has a habit of continuing to write and add things and add things and add things, and all of a sudden the 4 hours are still a rushed piece of business.
It's true. I mean, look, we're not factoring in maybe a Triple H promo. We're not factoring in if there's a surprise, say The Rock comes out, which that probably would be a promo. Those take a decent chunk of time off, and then they're buffering each of these matches with some sort of video package. That takes time. The entrances take a freaking ridiculous
and if
amount
they have
of
some
time.
kind of music, musical
great
guest
point.
that does
well,
a
you have John
performance or
Stewart
something.
too. You got
John
Stewart's going to have some time as well. So JR is right about 4 hours. That's going to go in a flash.
In fact, JR, I'm curious. With it being in Brooklyn, do they think about the crowd and what the crowd reaction is going to be in certain places? Listen, we saw it on Monday with Brock Lesnar. I never would have thought 16 months after Brock Lesnar beats the Undertaker streak that he's going to be cheered and the Undertaker is going to be booed. Did they take into consideration where the event's going to be?
I ironically wrote a blog that I posted either late Sunday night or early Monday morning that Brock Lesnar is going to be the overwhelming fan favorite in Minneapolis, which could mean Undertaker could be booed naturally. And then Undertaker used the low blow. Then my Twitter timeline at JRSBBQ went crazy. People saying, I just saw the Undertaker turn heel. The Undertaker did not turn heel. He's not a heel. They have a personal issue. And it's been so long since the WWE has been able to create a personal issue that has mesmerized their fan base that a lot of younger fans especially forgot how it was like to have a personal issue and what that did for you. What it made you feel. And you could have a personal issue with two heels or two baby faces, but I don't see either one of those guys being a heel, Lesnar or Undertaker. The only thing that would draw Lesnar to being a little bit of a heel is Heyman, and because he's the advocate, which is just a really modern term for manager. And Paul has a way with words, obviously, be the best there is right now, that he could create some dialogue to turn people on Brock and piss people off. But I don't see that you need to have a babyface or a heel in this match. It's a personal issue, and I think the catalyst for Undertaker coming back was listening to Heyman run his mouth week after week. He's the one in 21 and all that stuff, man. It's just like, it's like
brilliant.
It's great. And so I think that personal issue is a big thing, but I don't see Brock. On Sunday, you asked about the crowd. The crowd's going to be a typical Northeast crowd. And the Northeast crowd, to my experience, basically likes edginess, and the bad boys are kind of embraced. The guys got some swag. They booed Rock here first until he started being able to speak trash and do his promos. Then they loved him. Austin was we didn't do anything to turn Austin heel or babyface, but the crowd did it for him. And they loved his attitude and his beer drinking and his shooting a finger and all that stuff. So that became, he's a cool dude. And so vicariously, you live through him. The other example is in WCW, we had Ricky Steamboat, arguably one of the greatest workers of all time, at the insistence of his former wife, come out with her and little Ricky to identify with the perfect American family that traveled together, and they were there to support their, the patriarch there, the father, and little Ricky had his little judo suit on.
Yep.
It was instant heat. People booed like hell. And then you talk to the guys, the brain surgeons in WCW that worked for Turner that didn't understand, come here from Sikkim about wrestling. And I don't understand it. I said, we don't live in the Ozzy and Harriet era anymore.
Yep.
Man, it's not. G Ward did a little rough on a beaver last night. Nobody cares about that. They're booing the wife, who was like a beauty queen look, and little Ricky in his little cute little outfit. Hey, that 18 to 49, 18 to 34 demo of beer drinking guys, attitudinal. They could care less about that.
I wasn't one of the people that was screaming, something whipped when he was coming to the ring. I wasn't that guy.
That wasn't you.
It was pretty close, but I wasn't that guy. But it was the same thing. I was at the Meadowlands right across the river when Flair beat Sting for the title, and everybody in that building was rooting for Flair, and nobody was rooting for Sting. It's just that certain time, that change from the 80s to the 90s, and you kind of have to feel the crowd.
Yeah, they're the people. And in football, it's funny how a lot of people have such strong feelings about the Raiders. the Oakland Raiders. And you get some that don't have a team, they don't live there. They say, well, I kind of like the Raiders. Well, why do you like the Raiders? Well, they're dirty and they play hard and they got swag and all this stuff, and the black and silver, and they're known for being outlaws and
they cheat,
rogues,
you stick them,
and all that. So they like that. So
You're a Cowboys fan. I don't want to hear it, LaGreca.
So anyway, the Raiders are kind of like that perfect illustration of a team that you look at like Flair. Flair's the dirtiest player in the game. The Raiders at one time were the dirtiest team in the game, and for whatever reason, some fan bases of certain age groups and certain genders think that that's cool.